Hi everybody, Angel here with ConfidenceIsCatchy.com. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to Catch This. The edition on Tuesday is a little late at getting started. I know I said I was going to try to do these between 3:30 and 4:30, and today went a little bit off the rails for me. So I apologize that we're getting to this at 6:30, but thank you for tuning in. And for those of you that are going to be watching this later, thank you for jumping on and checking it out. Now, I am thinking today a little bit more about what we started talking about yesterday, which was characters. And my question for all of us to ponder today is, who's actually in charge? We talked yesterday about you have all these different personas, all these different hats that you wear based on the relationships that you're in, the jobs that you're in, the traumas that you might have gone through over the course of your life, or the path that you're trying to lay out for yourself now. And each of those personas, each of those people can be distinct and very different in terms of the experience and the way we experience each other for the different groups of people that you interact with. I mentioned yesterday that my regular day job is in an assessor's office, and who I am there is not who I am necessarily when I'm with my friends. It's not necessarily who I am with my family. I am a lot wackier and more fun with my friends than I certainly am in a professional atmosphere. And so we start talking about, who we are and what we, what is important to us and what we're trying to do with our lives. We start looking at who these hats are, who we are when we're wearing these different hats. And what I think is interesting is there's so much to be said, so many books and pages and all of this stuff that's talking about, and even videos talking about finding your authentic voice or finding your authentic self. In fact, this is one of them. Guys, I'd love to show you my library. It's called Something More by Sarah Ban Breathnach, Excavating Your Authentic Self. Now, I haven't read this whole book yet. I've pieced through it, read a couple chapters. It looks very interesting. But I have some other books here that are about authentic life and authentic voice as well. And what's striking to me about that is not only do we need to write books like this and read books like this, but that we even realize just in the doing of that, just in the fact that these books even, that the word authentic self or authentic voice, that phrase even needs to be in our lexicon, tells us something about ourselves, right? It tells us that most of the time we're not. Most of the time we are not authentic. Most of the time what we are doing is playing a role. And if you get to the point where you're playing the role so much that you have forgotten who you really are, that's when you start wondering, well, what's my authentic voice? What's my authentic self? And you have to start shedding who you were, and you have to start taking off some of these masks and hats in order to get back to the essence of who that is. Now, we talked yesterday a little bit about who you are as a person and your values, and whether you're a nice person or not kind of bleed through into everything that you do. But it's bigger than that. It's not just, whether you're nice or not. It's not whether just you are somebody that people want to hang out with. It's really, what do you stand for? And it's also what drives you, what's important to you. And I think a lot of times we get into these roles, whatever they might be, and our roles sometimes lend themselves to we're doing more for others than we are for ourselves. Sometimes we go to school and get a degree, or we go to school or go into the workforce and we get a job that pleases our parents or pleases our spouse or brings in a certain amount of money, and it isn't necessarily the work that our soul is called to do. I think we also get into a situation where, when we're in a partnership, whether it be in a romantic partnership or a business partnership or a parent-child situation, where the other person needs us to be a certain person for them in order for their growth and development, or in order for the partnership to survive. And we take on that role because we don't want to see the death of something that matters to us, that relationship. And yet, in taking on that role, aren't we just basically sealing the deal that relationship is over because we are not being ourselves within it? And therefore, over the course of time, that is unsustainable. That is a lot of what I see in the chapter headings in this book. And the one that kind of jumped out at me actually was Romancing the Soul, Finding Your Future by Re-Excavating the Past. Well, isn't that interesting? I literally, about a week or so ago, found in my notes, and I've been going through a lot of my notes and stuff to get prepared for the conference at the end of the month. I found in my notes something I wrote out about a dream that I had, and this was years ago. I had a dream, very vivid dream, that I had forgotten a very important event in my life, meaning like forgotten to go to it. And in waking from that dream and jotting down what it all meant, I actually started jotting down like, wow, I literally think I have forgotten more about my life than I remember. And I need to sit down with a like diary or calendar or whatever and just start plotting points in my life of this happened here and this happened before that. And it's not because I'm losing my mind. It's just because there's who I was changed so much in each of those like seismic shifts in my life that I literally have to stack them chronologically in order to remember like, okay, who was I at this point in my life? Who was I when I was running that organization? Where was I working? Who was I dating? Like I need to fill the timeline in so that I can see the progression better. And I think when we talk about re-excavating who we have been in order to move forward, I think that's a little piece of it, of putting those roles on a timeline so that you can actually see that there is a progression. Because a lot of times we don't give ourselves credit for that. I know I don't. Sometimes I just think, oh my God, I'm a big mess, right? Sorry about that. My computer decided to freeze up on us. So without seeing the progression of who you are over time, it's really easy to forget how you've grown over time. You tend to feel the same way you did when you were that, little girl, little boy back in grade school. And you don't see like, okay, yeah, when I was 15, this is where I was emotionally. This is who I was dating. This is what was going on in my life. This is the events that were out of my control at that point in time. And you don't see the growth until you kind of plot it out. And so tonight, I'm going to say two things to you. First of all, think about who's running the show. Which of the personas that we talked about yesterday is the one that most of the time is running the show? And is that one that's in control most of the time the one that you really want to be? And that could be, you're in a work situation and 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week or 80 hours a week, you're doing something that isn't really you. I know so many people that, they say my other life. I actually had a conversation with Facebook with something like, yeah, well, in my other life. And that literally does. It's like a split of your personality. So just think about which role that you're in takes the most of your day, takes the most of your energy, takes the most of your mental energy as well. And is that the role you really want to be putting all that energy into? And then the second thing I want to mention to you is just sit down with yourself, grab a piece of paper, plot it out. Plot it out. Start as far back as you can remember, and maybe you need to start today. Maybe the furthest back you can remember is this morning, and that happens to me too. And go backwards and just say, okay, I started this job here, and at that time I was dating this person, and I was living here, and just kind of plot out some like strategic points, almost as if you were going back, a little bit through your resume, but not just who you were, what you were doing at any particular time, but like really all of it. Okay, in 1988, I graduated high school. I'm dating myself, sorry. I graduated high school. What did that look like? Where was I living? Who was I with? What was I doing? What did I end up doing next? What did I do before that? Try to get those breakpoints down. And I think what you're going to find, especially the older you are, you're going to find that there's a theme running through all that. But you're also going to find that you have changed dramatically. The personas that you carry now are probably not anywhere close to the personas that you carried 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But to get clear so that you can remember what those were and re-excavate who that was. And you might find some glimmers in there of things that you want to bring forward again. Things that you might want to tap into again. So for tonight, just think about who's running the show and start putting some kind of order together for who you've been so that you can be clear about who that was and how much of that you want to carry forward. I hope that helps you tonight. We'll talk some more tomorrow about characters. Have a great night. Bye.